Hello everyone. On Sunday morning we played a little game with weeds and a cactus to start things off. It was a little bit of fun, but it also made a point. In life, our hearts can get so full of weeds and distractions, desires and habits that choke out what God wants to grow in us. And that's where fasting comes in. Today we're finishing off the first major section of our Sermon on the Mount series, and we'll pick up the next half later in the year. In Matthew 6, Jesus talks about three important practices. He talks about giving, prayer, and fasting. But he gives a strong warning in Matthew 6:1. He says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them." Jesus wants our hearts, not just our outward actions. He wants us to live honestly before God, not to impress other people. That's especially true when it comes to fasting. See, fasting is simply going without food to make space for God. It's not about being super spiritual or punishing ourselves. It's about pushing pause on physical cravings so that we can better hear and follow God's Spirit. The Bible teaches us that Jesus fasted, and he seemed to just expect that his followers would do the same, but not because it was a rule or a commandment. The Apostle Paul writes in Galatians 5, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free." And so fasting isn't meant to be a heavy burden. It's meant to be a blessing because it helps us break free from the selfish desires of our flesh and create a heart capable of letting the Spirit produce the fruit of love and peace and self-control. And as Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 9:27, "I strike a blow to my body to make it my slave." See, fasting is a way of training ourselves, not just to say no to food, but to say no to anything that tries to take God's place in our hearts. In Matthew 6:16-18, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says when we fast, we shouldn't try to show off. He says, when you fast, don't look somber, but wash your face, so that only your Father who sees in secret will reward you. See, fasting is meant to be a quiet, personal act of seeking God. It's not a performance for other people. But in the Bible, fasting wasn't always a secret thing. Sometimes God's people fasted together for big moments. Acts 13:3 says that the early church fasted before sending out Paul and Barnabas on their first missionary journey. 2 Chronicles chapter 23, we see the story of King Jehoshaphat, who called a great fast for all of Judah when facing an enemy threat. Esther chapter 4 points out that Esther and the Jews fasted together before she approached the king. And these examples show us that fasting can be both personal and shared as a way of seeking God's will together. And right now, our church is at something of a crossroads. The vision is becoming clear, but we need wisdom to know how to walk it out, where to meet, where to grow, what steps to take. And that's why, just like we did after last year's forum, we're inviting everyone to intentionally seek the Lord and his wisdom. And so my invitation is for this week, our church, fast and pray together. Not to impress anyone, no one's keeping tabs, and not because we have to, it's not a rule, but to clear out the distractions and listen to God. Here's the invitation: to fast from Tuesday dinner to Wednesday dinner. And if you can, again, from Thursday dinner to Friday dinner. And if you can't fast from food, maybe abstain from something else like TV or the busyness that we call a normal week, and use that space to pray and reflect. And as you feel the hunger and the discomfort, let it be a reminder to seek God, to ask him for wisdom and guidance for your life, for our church family, and especially for our leadership. Don't make a big deal about it. This isn't about showing off. It's about being honest before God, to be kind, humble, and full of love as we go about our week, not complaining to every second person about how hungry we are. Philippians 2:15 says, "Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky." Let's shine by seeking God together. Let's fast, pray, and ask him to guide us. And let's trust that as we clear away the weeds, God will plant and water something beautiful. CFN. Have a lovely week.